All right, we should be able to all be able to see our screen. All right, so we have these nonprofit success labs because we want to provide an opportunity for nonprofit leaders, for friends of nonprofits, for people that are in philanthropy and policy and anything to do with around or by do-goodery and trying to be good neighbors and help protect this Idaho and this wonderful life that we live here so that we can share, we can collaborate, we can gather resources, we can gather tools, best practices, learn what's working, learn what's not working, and it just creates a regular way for us to be able to engage with each other, to be able to share our thoughts, share what we're experiencing, and find solutions together. My name is Brian McKinney, and I call myself the social media gal, but I have other technical roles and hats. I've been in nonprofit work for about a decade or so, and I just realized the other day, oh, it's longer than a decade now. So I have to start updating that. And I'm happy to have you all here today. And I would like to introduce to our co-hosts, our folks that are going to be dispelling some information and misinformation and giving us a little bit of updates on how we can collaborate, mergers, how we can work smarter, and do capacity building as nonprofits. So Blossom Johnston is our founder and our CEO and our ideator and action taker and making of the things happen. And then we also have, am I going to say B? Okay, perfect. Making sure I didn't mess that up. B Black from the WCA, and she's going to be sharing some experiences that she's had recently with mergers and collaboration and coming together. Our mission at Idaho Partners for Good is to reinvent, how you and me and people are of like-minded insights to give and share our expertise and do more good stuff together. Our vision and what we're carrying out is through things like the Nonprofit Success Lab is to develop stronger, healthier, better equipped nonprofits so they can do more of what they do best. So I believe next is Blossom. Would you like to take it away?
I will most certainly take it away. Thank you, Brian. Okay, just a quick pulse check. What is your biggest pressure point right now? It doesn't matter if you want to do it professionally, your business, or if with your nonprofit hat on. Just what are the biggest pressure points in your world right now? And you can use the chat, or you can just come off mute and let us know.
Or it can be a pressure point that we don't have listed. It could be a completely different one.
Oh, for sure. Right.
Well, I'll jump in. This is B, and I would say for us, it's hiring the right folks that can come in and be leaders at our mid-management level in our organization. So have had some turnover in that space and just trying to put in place the right folks that not just the technical knowledge, but also really want to be leaders of people.
Yep. Julie, with Rolling Tomato, do you want me to read this or you want to come off mute?
Sure. We're seeing a lot of organizations want to get food from us, and we have limited funding to do it all. So we're spreading ourselves thinner and thinner, and we're trying to really be strategic in how we move forward. But in some ways, it's a great opportunity, and the other side is how do we do it all?
Mm-hmm. David, would you like to come off mute?
Yeah, hey. So I'm a CPA. I deal primarily with nonprofit clients. And what I'm seeing across the nation is just folks really struggling where funding sources were available maybe a year before, or where private grants institutions are being inundated with more and more requests and applicants. And just the competition for funding has really ramped up in the last year and a half. It's really ramped up.
I'm going to give a little story on top of that, what David just said. So we've been working with the Murdoch Foundation. They were one of our, we did a listening session with them. And I was on the phone with Pauline Fong last Friday. And she said, Blossom, we opened our applications in the fall, and it was only open for a few weeks. And we got over 600 letters of inquiry. And it just about tipped them over. So we need to look at what our options are. So let's see. Someone else, Denise, I think you had something you put in there. Would you like to come off mute?
Yeah, I'm with Advocates Against Family Violence. I'm their ED, and we're up against a timeline with IHFA, Idaho Housing and Finance. Our shelter was built in 1920, and come October of this year, it will not meet the standards for funding for the IHFA. So we are hustling to do a feasibility study, talking with different funders, because this is like a $1.5 million just to rebuild. That doesn't include tearing everything down. So that's what keeps me up at night.
Okay. So we know that there are a lot of pressure points right now, not only on Idahoans in general, but on those that are actually serving them. And so that's what we're about today, is we're going to talk about, so what? What is this normal or is it not normal? So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. I want to lay the landscape of of Idaho right now, and hopefully start destigmatizing some of the pressure on nonprofits to, when we talk about this thing called strategic partnerships or mergers or, things like that, nonprofit leaders can get really anxious. But I want to lay the landscape is this kind of stuff is happening daily in across our landscape in all of the different sectors. So these are just some of the recent examples, the last couple of years of things happening in the corporate landscape. Lots of stuff, Clearwater, Idaho Steel Products, Bank of Idaho, Potato Products of Idaho. And then smaller ones, Capital Auto Body, Doctors Hospice. So there's a lot of things
Could you
happening
do me a favor?
that have
Could
to do.
you, that
Oh,
flyer you created for Halo Buddies,
sorry,
could you
Angela.
make me like 5?
Okay. All righty. Let's go to the next one. And it's happening also in our government landscape. So we've got consolidations going on, actively going on right now up at Blaine County Fire, Smiley Creek, Ketchum Fire, South Fire. They're consolidating in order to protect resources and be able to deliver. City of Nampa recently transferred ownership to CWI of the Ford Center because it'll help them, help CWI capitalize on their growth and provide additional education and community workforce development. The STEM Action Center was absorbed into the Workforce Development Council. The Soil and Water Commission merged with the Department of Water Resources. So across the landscape, everybody is looking at how do we do business differently. Next slide, please. So it's happening actively in our nonprofit sector. Nonprofit Center, Idaho Nonprofits Center, Idaho Community Foundation, now one organization. Create Common Good, City of Good, one umbrella now under City of Good. The Lutheran Community Services Northwest and Compass Housing Alliance, now one across the region. And then we're going to talk a little bit about this Youth Mental Health Alliance, which B is involved in with the Idaho Youth Ranch, the Children's Home Society, and the Women's and Children's Alliance. It is a first of its kind collaboration, and it's meant to tackle the youth mental health crisis. I'm going to let B talk about just that larger landscape of the domino effect that is happening across Idaho when it comes to the mental health crisis, specifically for our youth. So let's go ahead and throw it over to B at this point and let her give us some background on what's happening and how it's working.
Thank you, Blossom, and thank you for the opportunity to be in this space with you all. It's so nice and lovely to see some of our fantastic partners, I would say, on the screen today. I mean, Idaho Youth Ranch, obviously, a very big partner of ours. Julie with Rolling Tomato, thank you so much for what you provide for our shelter residents. And then Denise with Advocates Against Family Violence. Congratulations, Denise. Yeah, been great partners and worked very closely over the years with AAFV. And I think we share sometimes some of our clients, right, back and forth because they need a change in venue. So I just want to say that this is not really a formal alliance in any way. In fact, it started several years ago with conversations actually about COVID timeframe with Idaho Youth Ranch because well, actually before that, Idaho Youth Ranch used to come on a weekly basis and take all the excess that we had from our thrift store. And then as COVID came along and we ended up having to close our thrift store, we asked Idaho Youth Ranch if they would like to, in a sense, take over thrift store operations from us, and we would send our folks that were giving to us over to them. And in exchange, they would provide vouchers for our clients, because that was one of the reasons we got into that business, that thrift store business, was so that we would be able to help our clients with things that they otherwise could not afford to buy. So that was really the genesis of closer communication with Idaho Youth Ranch. And so from there, we talked about what are job training opportunities that our clients could participate in that the Youth Ranch was already doing. So always the conversations that we had were through the lens of what are things that you already do and how can we ensure closer collaboration and how can it benefit not just the folks that you have been serving, but maybe some of the folks that we've been serving. So not make up anything new, but just leverage things that we're already have been doing. So that really started cementing that relationship. And then of course, Warm Springs Counseling Center, with the work they do with youth, our primary target are adults. And so when I think about the continuum of mental health and for our different demographics, Warm Springs are the youngest of our community members. You've got the Youth Ranch with the focus in Hayes Shelter Home for teens and early adults. And then our focus has been 18 and older. So there's kind of a natural thread in terms of mental health from, at least as I see it, young through whatever age you are. And so that was how we all started talking. And as we talked about the issues that the three organizations were seeing, one of the ones that really came to the forefront very quickly was the lack of, excuse me, a lack of clinical staff and the lack of clinicians just throughout the state. And I think all of you are aware, and there's been a lot written about the ratios of not just clinicians, but psychologists, psychiatrists, to the number of people that live in our state, and it's deplorable. Mental health services are really hard to come by. And so as organizations, the three of us have struggled over the years to hire and retain clinicians, and also to hire and retain clinical services managers, which kind of speaks to what I was saying before. It's really important to have managers that can not only relate to teams because of their technical expertise, but also really know how to be leaders and help support those teams in a different way. So that was how we started getting together and talking about those issues. And then we were all fortunate, what really jumped this to a higher level, we were fortunate to have a common, with that common shared interest and quest, the J.A. and Catherine Albertson Foundation knew of all of our organizations and decided, fortunately for us, to support all three of our organizations and provide us with an opportunity to really put some dollars behind the work that we were doing in support of specifically targeting mental health for youth and others in our community. So I think, Blossom, that is why you had invited me to come and share. And so it really started from an informal, how can we as three little organizations, really, how can we leverage each other's work, and how can we as leaders share some thoughts and ideas and brainstorm ways that we can support each other at a deeper level with this shared need. So we explored things like, could we have a clinical service manager that we could share? And given the ratios of really providing excellent support, that doesn't really seem to be a very feasible alternative at this point. But we can certainly share other things, like creating collaborative teams where clinicians can come together and talk. So we're still working out what are some of the pieces that we can do, and certainly trainings, making training available from one organization to another. Those are things that we can leverage. So again, it's building on things that we already do to the benefit of each of our respective organizations and to the broader community where that is also possible.
So B, let me ask you a few questions based
Sure.
on what you just gave us, because it's beautiful and it's really the way we have to move forward. So, would you have done this if these were not leaders that you already had a relationship with and trusted?
Probably not.
Okay. So
I think
trust.
it was something that grew organically
Mm-hmm.
because of shared vision, because of shared, I guess, ethics and concern for our community. So I think, yes, you're right, Blossom. I think it starts with a foundation of trusting in the leadership and kind of why we're each doing this, if you will.
Okay. And then as far as these three, I mean, all three of your organizations have been around for a long time.
Yes, we have.
What was the pressure that made you think, I've got to do things differently?
It was not so much doing things differently for us because it's still the same types of services, but it's like, how do we keep providing these services in a environment where it's really hard to get the skill set that we need to deliver the best, most educated, for lack of a better term, clinical support for clients. And it was that shared concern that we all expressed to each other that really had us looking at what are ways that we can, if possible, share resources to the betterment and the help of our community. So it really was not anything more strategic than that. It was really born out of a common need for being able to serve more clients in a more effective way.
Okay. So let me the follow-up really is around the language you used around the continuum.
Yes.
So in the area of youth mental health,
Mhm.
what is the continuum?
Mhm.
I mean,
So-
if I'm like not any one of your three organizations, but I'm in the youth mental health arena here,
Yeah.
should I be really thinking about what this continuum looks like? And if so, what is it?
So it's a good question because I would submit that most of the clientele that each of our three organizations serve, some of the mental health issues come from a place of abuse and or some trauma, right? Now, our specific niche is trauma that is based in either domestic abuse, violence, or sexual assault. We have had for many years wait lists for counseling, both for adults. In fact, we ended the year with 107 adults on our wait list and 63 clients. We have always offered up to anybody that calls and needs counseling. If they have a child that needs counseling, we've always offered up the information about Warm Springs Counseling Center. If it is youth, if they don't want to stay on our wait list or they can't stay on the wait list, it's the Youth Ranch and Hayes Home, right? If there's a child for whom that's appropriate. So we try to do a really good job of resourcing for anybody who calls and needs our support. But at the end of the day, we're the only ones that, at least at this point, have completely free services throughout all of the different services we offer. So for that reason, we will have individuals that will stay on our wait list until they can be seen one-on-one with our clinicians. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but we will try to resource as best we can. And it's not just Youth Ranch and Warm Springs, it's anybody in our community that we feel provides really good trauma-informed care for those who specifically have been in an abusive or violent or a sexual assault relationship. Because there are obviously other organizations that also have clinicians, Terry Riley, Advocates Against Family Violence. I mean, there are other resources. And so we try to do the best we can to help individuals find where they can get the help when they need it.
Okay, I'm going to ask about a few more things I heard you say, and then we're going to open it for other questions, and then I'll jump back into the deck. Alrighty. What I also heard is you identified a common problem based on what the pool of clients that you serve needed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you really got to an end user focus, which is your client base, and you focused on what they needed.
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. And then you also identified what each of you did best,
Yes.
what you brought to the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And then you shared across whatever it was that you could share, you shared.
Yes.
Okay. Well, those right there, if you didn't write those down, I think everybody needs to write those down, because that is the basis of beginning this move, if you haven't already, towards more strategic partnerships, whether it goes from just the beginning of sharing something to the full-on mergers. There is a spectrum that nonprofits can use, and it probably will start very small, kind of like what y'all did, was just you got together, you met intentionally, and you started identifying what all of your clients could use.
Yes, I think, Blossom, that is really what is at the heart for me. Is I've learned over the years that, with the scarce resources, we can't afford right now to start other programs, even if there's a need. We'd love to, because there are other programs that I think could really benefit. So the biggest thing we can do in this environment is we want to keep doing what we do, and we want to do it to the best of our ability and to the extent that we can leverage and benefit other nonprofits in our arena, and they can do the same for us. It's building on what we already have.
Perfect. So did I just hear you say that this Youth Mental Health Alliance is open to others in your ecosystem to become, at least to benefit from your learnings and your wisdom? Is that what I heard, or am I stretching the truth here?
I think any one of us is certainly willing to share. And Alliance makes it seem more formal than what I perceive it really to be. I mean, basically at this point, we are three leaders that we just like trying to organize any one of us. I think our time is the most limited resource we have. And trying to get the three of us even together for a cup of coffee or to share, it's like weeks in the planning. But we're all open to discussing ways that we can leverage off of each other. And if anybody wants to reach out to any one of us, we're more than happy to have that conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, B. And I know this about Anselm and Scott. They're also leaders with a heart forward. And so we're lucky to have the three of you in this state.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Questions from others?
So I have a question, I think, that might be useful for this conversation. So we talked about, in order to have trust and to already have kind of those relationships built with people that you're creating mergers / alliance / loose consortium of like-minded individuals doing similar things. What we're kind of seeing a need for is a proactivity, for nonprofits to be able to, actively be going, okay, I don't know somebody in this shared space as well as I'd like to, but I need to start identifying individuals in these shared spaces and creating those relationships. Do we foresee that as being like a big part moving forward for nonprofits to be able to create these relationships and mergers / alliance?
So, Brienne, I would say that if you are a leader of an organization, it is your duty to find out who should be partners in this work. And then I think it is incumbent on all of us. And it's tough. I have to say it's tough because everybody's time is stretched. But I think that that is the best that we can do for the good of our own organizations is to look around us and not try to reinvent, not try to duplicate, but try to see who else is in this space that we might develop a closer working relationship with, not just to the benefit of our organization, but more importantly, to the benefit of our clients. I mean, we have always tried, as long as I've been here at least, to not ever do something that somebody else can do better. And also to reach out and see if somebody can help us with something. Is there something that we can offer up to help them back? So I just feel like that is the place where I would suggest anybody start is to, just look around. And for us, this conversation really started because of, well, many reasons, but one of the main drivers of this specific conversation was because of the growing wait list for mental health. I mean, our shelter, ever since I've been here, our domestic violence shelter, the number of folks on the wait list for that has really stayed pretty constant. It went up a little bit during COVID years, but now it's kind of down to what I've seen over the last 18 years. On the other hand, the need for counseling has just increased greatly. And so I think it's as we try to address some of those increased needs, that can drive some of this conversation. And then I think it's a matter of, okay, who in my sphere could I possibly reach out to where we might be able to more closely collaborate to try to meet that need?
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. I think the way that you worded it, I'm seeing it as a sound bite, or a quote in my head of it's, that time limit, but to intentionally, you have to take the time to reach out and make those connections and create those relationships, proactively. Yeah.
All right. If there's not any more questions, I'm going to move back into our slide deck. All righty. Okay, so now what? Well, we're really wanting to have the courage to step in and look at what we do in comparison to the ecosystem that we're in and begin to move towards a greater culture of collaboration. So I love these two quotes. It, Collaboration is much like a birth. The song that sings forth resembles each one of us to a degree, but it's the kind of thing that would never be born from just one of us sitting down with a guitar. And then Mother Teresa, I'm sure we all have heard this. I can do things you can't. You can do things I can't. Together we can do great things. That's this moment in time we find ourselves in Idaho because of the poly crisis that is kind of squeezing us here. We need to look at what we're going to do across all the sectors. We've got a couple of B corporations on this call today. We've got a couple of solopreneurs. We've got some nonprofits. So let's go into just this next conversation. Now, I'm full disclosure, Idaho Partners for Good has not figured it all out. We're just a little bit in front of most everybody else. Okay. So I'm not gonna lie to you that we've, if you asked us to come in and helped you to do a merger with somebody else, we would find the people who are doing that and help. But we're not the holders of all the answers. That's for sure. So let's go to the next slide. Here's what nonprofits are the increasing pressure is do more with less. The limited resources and the ever-growing community needs as our state continues to grow, just raw population. There are going to be more people that are going to fall into each one of our buckets of need. So there is a continuum of strategic partnerships, everything from what Bea described. Just get together on a regular basis with people that are in your ecosystem and start talking about what is it that we do best? What is it that you do best, to the Mother Teresa quote? And how might we do the best together? It could start that simply. To then you start looking at, okay, if I've got X and you need X, how might I share some of the X? And then maybe we look at, I don't have a development officer, but you do, and they're a rock star. Might we be able to share that development officer or the CFO or even the executive director? So these are the kinds of conversations that we want to create the space for going into this year, because this past year, we heard from a ton of nonprofits, everything from the ones who just started up, which, by the way, were really hard on people who want to start up a new nonprofit, because we don't believe that we need any more unless it's a very, very unique offering. So I'm just going to put that on the table. If you know people that are trying to do what you do and you hear about them, send them to us because we'll discourage them. Then, second of all, we want to be able to not just create the space, but create the tools and the expertise to help groups move further down this continuum towards collaboration and maybe even greater efficiencies through shared services. So these are not all the options. These are just a few of them that are available to you if you desire. We do, and I shared it with Denise because it is something that she's actively doing, is looking for strategic partners. And so we do have an assessment that we've been using for the last year to when we sit down with someone else, whether it's a nonprofit or a business or a government agency, we have an assessment that we do. And it's based on common values, it's based on mission alignment, it's based on just some of the core things. Do we align? Are we a fit for each other? Because if it's not, then don't even go down that road. And so we have used that a couple of times. 2 years ago, our board had a very, very deep conversation about, are we needed? Do we need to go away? And based on all the different options that we put on the table in front of them, including merging with another organization, including changing to a B corporation, we had probably 10 different options. And the board, after careful consideration, they're like, no, we think this is still really what we need to be doing. And so we held the line and moved forward. But we all need to call time out on ourselves and ask those tough questions. Are we seriously needed? What's going to happen if we're not here? Are we really feeling the need that is out there, or can somebody do it better? Those are hard questions, and they tear our hearts up because we are all people that run from this place of heart and head. So I'm not downplaying any of that, but I am saying in this time that we find ourselves in, who might we do what we do with better? Okay, go to the next slide. All right, so we're gonna open it up for questions, comments, concerns. We left a lot of time because we were hoping that if you did have something that you wanted to bring forward, that the rest, we are big believers of collective wisdom. We believe that the diversity of perspectives gets us to new solutions. And so if there is something, actually, I'm gonna start it because it's something we're kicking off. It's called Our Idaho Neighbor to Neighbor. And we have these 4 guiding principles, and we have these 4 pillars, strategic pillars. And we are going to go out with those things and get feedback. And here's what I want to put in front of you is we need feedback from the field. And so when we're done here, you're going to get the video of B, Scott, and Anselm. So we'll send that out. We'll also send out our strategic assessment. And I will send out those 4 principles and the 4 pillars. And I would please take a few minutes and tell us what you think about what we're doing, which is a result of what we heard from the philanthropic sector and the nonprofit sector. What we're doing is we're stepping into a position where it is not about a program or service. It's about creating a common platform whereby every Idahoan sees themselves as an answer to someone else's potential challenge or current challenge. So I'm going to stop and just let you know, please, I would love feedback on that. Yeah, I'm going to open it up.
I have a question. This is Kelsey J. I'm a lawyer and I do a lot of work with nonprofits. And something you just said, Blossom, about discouraging people from starting new nonprofits, comes up so often for me. Like I'm always dealing with people that are really excited. They're like, I want to start a nonprofit. And I do ask them, like, have you done like a market research study? Like, are there other organizations out there? Where are you going to get your money? You know, because so many people think that all you have to do is become a nonprofit and then money just falls out of the sky for you. Can you share some more about like your success rate on pivoting people to collaborate with existing groups instead? Because most of my clients seem to want to go forward anyway. And, you know, my business is to get paid for billing hours. So I'm like, okay,
Sure.
I'll draft I'll draft the paperwork for you, but
Sure. Kelsey, I'm happy to share what we send them. So we actually send them an environmental scan. And that scan includes the market research. But what we tell them straight up is the donor pool is limited here in Idaho. While we're super generous as a population, when we have over 10,000 nonprofits registered with the IRS in Idaho. And so we really don't need another one. And you are actually diffusing the donor base when you are starting your new nonprofit. If you can assure me that you're actually getting new donors from somewhere, like maybe out of state, then I might help you. But if they get through the environmental scan and come back to us Nobody has come back after we've given them the scan.
So that's just that's a service you provide is you do the research or the environmental scan. Or is that
No,
just like you have
no.
that information on hand
We,
or
yeah, I just say, guys, here's you finish this environmental scan
Mhm.
and then you come back and show me your results. And I haven't had one.
Yeah. That's good though. It saves people so much time. Yeah.
Yeah. Mindy, would you mind coming off mute and just talking about what you just put in chat?
Yes. So there's, I mean, you say there's 10,000, there's probably a lot more because there's a lot of people that function like nonprofits but don't get registered or so. I mean, it is definitely oversaturated. We see that with the veteran community. One of the things that I think might be for consideration, and maybe this is part of our facilitation next week with the group that's coming together, is and maybe you've explored this, I'm not really sure, but bringing organizations together to try to figure out who does what and try to work on not not duplicating services and helping nonprofits to maybe divide and conquer what they're doing and what other people are doing and being able to be less saturated, right? And then I feel like with the less saturation, I mean, even for me, I would love to combine with some other nonprofits to just sit down and talk about with the veteran service organizations what they're doing so that we can all be clear. And then maybe there's something that is on our plate that we shouldn't be doing and we don't know, or it makes more sense for something we're doing to go to a different nonprofit and we can create this way for us to just be able to not duplicate, overwork ourselves, burn ourselves out when we tend to do duplication in services. And I don't know. That's just something I think is an opportunity that we have, and I'm not sure if that's been done with other organizations to really flush out what they do.
So, Mindy, we actually, one of our 4 pillars is data and storytelling. And we have a website that we've created where we've uploaded all 10,000 IRS nonprofits by legislative district and by county for this very reason, for them to begin to see who else is in their ecosystem and to be able to start having conversations around, okay, what is it that we might be stronger doing together versus us trying to do what you do. So we actually do have that functional. We're not ready to go out because it's not, we need to clean up the data and we need the funding to finish that whole thing. But yes, it'll also have a way for nonprofits to express interest about their desire to look at strategic partnerships. So, David, I'm
Blossom. Oh, I was just about to ask you a question,
yeah.
Blossom.
Oh,
Yeah.
What
okay.
what are your thoughts on sponsored organizations and sponsoring different organizations?
So fiscal sponsorship is definitely an option to just see if the concept is viable. But the fiscal sponsor really has a responsibility beyond just keeping the money to actually be asking some of those hard questions. So I'm a big proponent of fiscal sponsors to just pilot things, see, because we need more innovation. But if that is not a successful pilot, then they need to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And I would also just caution, if you're a fiscal sponsor, there's a certain amount of administrative encumbrance that comes with that. Just understanding what that all actually entails. It's not nothing. So,
Right. Right.
I'm sorry, you were going to ask me a question.
So I actually I was going to ask you about this concept of shared financial services. Is that starting to pick up?
Um, I haven't seen it a ton. Typically, I think, first of all, I would say I think it's a great idea because as you talk about efficiencies and gaining efficiencies, figuring out what organizations are good at. I'm a huge proponent of outsourcing certain administrative components of a business because what I found is one, especially when nonprofits, are starting or when they're young, most of the time, the folks that start nonprofits aren't administratively minded. They're compassion minded. They know how to tackle certain problems, but there is a big administrative component that comes along with, the bookkeeping and the taxes and all of those different things that organizations have to adhere to. So there's a huge component. If you can find a way to outsource that, and if that's partnering with a group or finding organizations that you can say, hey, I don't need a full-time bookkeeper. I don't need a full-time administrative personnel staff. If you can outsource that to a company, if that's viable and if it makes financial sense, great. If it's you and 3 other organizations saying, hey, what if we hired somebody together and assisted us with this? I think there's a lot of practicality and ingenuity going on right now. Most of the clients that I have are larger and have passed that. I think it's a great place to start. I also think there's a huge need for bringing in professionals who can make assessments. I had a great conversation with the Idaho Library Association the other day. I said, hey, we've never had an audit. We'd love to have an audit. And they sent me their budget. I said, you don't want an audit. You don't need an audit. You don't want an audit. And instead I said, what we should do is we should sit down and, like pro bono, let's talk about the governance structure and your internal control policies and procedures. And let's just have that conversation starting here. And so I think bringing in individuals who can help you make an assessment, because I think my experience has been that nonprofits crave to be compliant and to be good students. I really believe that. But I think that it's hard to know. It's hard to make that internal assessment on your own. So finding individuals that can help give you that assessment, I think is really hugely important.
Thank you. So I'm gonna ask Allie, because Allie comes at it from a risk management perspective. And so when we're talking about shared services, when we're talking about shared back office, vulnerability and risk for a nonprofit, what are some of those things that you would have us keep our eye on?
Oh my gosh, it's such a good question. And honestly, as I've been taking in kind of all of this information, I think that there's an opportunity so Angela Hoppy-Shuda, who's also on this call, is my business partner. So we're listening very closely to kind of what the needs are. I think that there's an opportunity, potentially just even like in policies and procedures, right? And really looking at kind of what are your guardrails that are currently in place, and do you have the proper documentation around kind of those rules? Do your employees know how to follow the rules? Like, is it very clear and written in language that is consumable by all kind of levels within the organizations? I think there's a lot of things like just in kind of an AI perspective that we're keeping an eye on, even from the external risk right? Like making sure you're not vulnerable in a way that could potentially compromise kind of the structure of your company. So I'm going to have a few conversations. I may reach out to a few of you folks so that we can potentially pull together something that is more central and serves a lot of the kind of the nonprofits. And like you're saying, right, is like utilize kind of that shared, model across many organizations. So let me do a little bit more thinking on that. And I know I've got a few messages out to a few folks on this call. So if I have not exchanged messages with you and you want to reach out to me, please just send me. I'm on LinkedIn or here. Would love to connect.
So here's an idea for boards to consider is if they want to pay their executives more, look at what you can outsource. Oftentimes the outsourcing will cost less than the full-time staff that you have. Not that we want our staff to lose their jobs, but because of the amount that we can actually pay them based on the budget, it's often they're also standing in the SNAP benefit line and other subsidies. So I just want you to be thinking from that business perspective. How might we do the work we do, retain this, and actually pay people living wages, because otherwise we're going to end up in the same boat that a lot of our clients end up in. So with that, Mindy, did you have something? I saw something shoot up on chat from you.
I was just mentioning that one of our positions, we went to 1-year contracts for right now, because we don't want to get in the position where we hire a full-time person and then something changes with so much uncertainty that's been happening. And we're looking at one more position too as well that we might just do a contract. We started off as part-time personnel, mostly with our staffing to meet the demand that we had originally. And now the demand has changed significantly just over the last couple of years. And we're looking at, instead of bringing on employees to do more of the contracting, and we're finding with the contractors, they're doing part-time, and we're getting just as much from the contracting part-time hours as we probably would with our full-time hours. So seems to be working well for us that we have that in place. So
yeah, our model is all contractors as well, because it then allows us to go get the expertise we need when we need it. I'm a big fan of looking at business models for the future and not just the historic models that we have been grown accustomed to. So the landscape is shifting, and we need to be able to shift with it on all fronts. And we're here. Idaho Partners for Good is here. We have a ton of expertise. We have over 30 consultants that are doing different things, everything from the ops excellence to strategic excellence to you name it. We've got them, and we would love to if you're going to go out and hire a consultant, come to us first, please, because what we do then is invested back in things like this, so that we can continue that virtuous cycle of stepping in and helping nonprofits do more of what they do best. So with that, I'll go ahead and Brian, do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, so our next Nonprofit Success Lab that we have coming up on February 19th, we're going to be bringing community leaders together that are good at mobilizing people, that are good at going out and getting in front of people and getting them fired up, and finding people that are passionate about collaborating and about making new friends, and going out and finding people that have the same vision and passion for, again, this beautiful place that we call home. So look for that coming out on our socials and on our website and in our newsletters and everything, so that you can come and join in on that. Should be a great panel of folks. And also, we recorded this, and so after we get everything all packaged and bundled up, we'll be also sending this out as well to everyone who participated. I want to thank everyone again for, allowing us with the opportunity to do this and put this on and keep bringing people together to share best practices and resources and do more good.
Thank you, Bea, for being here today and sharing your story. It is inspiring, and we hope that you can add as much fuel on it as you possibly can.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Blossom, for the opportunity. Absolutely. And happy to talk to anybody who wants to do deeper dives. Happy to share. So thank you.
With that, good day to all. And hopefully the inversion clears up before too much longer.
Yes.
Hopefully today.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.